All right, when you're ready.
God called Columba from the privilege of a princely family, from the power base of an Irish monastery, from the solace of Kent faces and familiar rituals, to the white martyrdom of exile, to a voyage into the unknown, in a frail curragh, which is a coracle, with a few followers, making a series of landfalls as he tried to find the place where God was calling him to begin all over again. There may have been political currents as well as winds and waves that brought them to Iona, but it was still exile. According to legend, the monks came ashore at what is now called Columba's Bay, dragging their curraghs ashore over the stones, Iona greenstone, now called Columba's Tears. Right then, they were turning their backs on Ireland as they followed God's call.
The Celtic monks carried little with them in their wanderings and voyages, their pilgrimages. Perhaps there was a bell, and certainly a book. In its own leather satchel would be a precious copy of the Gospel or the Psalms, often written out by their own hand. They carried this book, and they opened it. For though it was in itself a precious thing, it was also a way of learning about God. So amid the dazzling decoration of the Book of Kells, we can discern, in Latin, which was then the language of the Church, these words.
Through him all things came to be, and for Celtic Christians the whole world was changed with the grandeur of God. In storm, snow, and days of gentle sunshine, day after day, and in the depths of the starry night, intricate and beautiful, powerful and mysterious, another book opened, the great book of God's creation. Within it they carried and read the little book, the Bible, not less important, but something simply that human hands could hold. And the words of the Psalms, for instance, held these two books together. Columba and his followers, as part of their austere religious observance, would sometimes stand waist deep in the swirling sea, chanting the Psalms. And a later church continued at least part of the tradition with the metrical Psalms, though sung on dry land.
So that the words would not be lost, the daily work of some monks would be copying out scripture with quill pens, ink from oak gall. The story goes that on the day Columba died, he was copying out these words. There on Iona, sustained by psalms, did people taste and see that God was good. The monks built their cluster of beehive cells and their little church. They gathered for worship, but also honoured God in their daily work, farming on fertile land of Iona and Kiri, caring for the sick, preaching to the people, copying out the scriptures, and welcoming the many guests who made the journey to Iona. Seeking advice, absolution, healing, blessing. The person of Abbot Columba and the sanctuary of the monastic family drew people from different walks of life to Iona. They also experienced the presence of God, as many do today.
But the light was never intended to be hidden under a basket or in a beehive cell, or in the 12th century abbey or a 20th century reconstruction, or in a youth camp or a center welcoming pilgrims. It must be seen, it needs to be carried out from Iona. Ralph Morton, a founding member of the Iona community, used to say, "The Iona experience is meant to be exported." That was true from the beginning. Columba himself went out on mission from Iona as far as Inverness. He was involved in the politics of the kingdom of Dalriada in what is now Argyll. Monks from Iona voyaged by coracle among the islands as hermits, but also as missionaries and priests to local communities. Later, Aidan travelled as far as Northumbria and Lindisfarne. When people from all over Scotland came as pilgrims to the shrine of Saint Columba, in the days of the Celtic monks and later the Benedictine monastery, they found hospitality, but this little island could not hold all who came, and they went back with renewed faith to their homes. After the Reformation, when the abbey lay in ruins, curious travelers still visited.
The Abbey Church was rebuilt more than 100 years ago, and big pilgrimage groups came from Glasgow and went back with warmer piety to the challenges of city parishes. In the 1930s, George MacLeod started bringing unemployed craftsmen and ministers in training to work on the rebuilding of the Abbey quarters and cloister, the place of the common life. The Iona community came into being around the rebuilding, but its members could not stay in the sanctuary on the island. They had homes and families to return to. The young ministers were called to work in housing schemes, industrial mission, developing countries. They carried with them the light of their new understanding of community and social justice.
And Iona community members seldom stay for long in Iona. They go back to their work in schools, hospitals, offices, listen to those living in poverty, grapple with the needs and rights of asylum seekers, become ecumenical accompaniers on the separation barrier between Israel and Palestine, campaign about climate change and a sustainable lifestyle, risk peaceful protest against nuclear weapons at Faslane or Aldermaston, each in their own way carrying the light. Every week in the season now, people come from all over the world, drawn to Iona. Leaving, they carry within them the light of new understandings of God, of themselves, of the needs of others. The legacy and blessing of Columba, the gift of God. If we carry lit candles into the world outside these sheltering wards, the wind often blows them out. So as we sing again, you are invited to take the light of the gospel of Christ to your place of work, your community, and your friends. God is calling you to be and to shine. Light it up everywhere.